So, hello, Brannon. Sell yourself in 1 minute.
Well, I'm Brannon Santos. I am a tech entrepreneur. I live in Bend, Oregon, which is not really a robust tech community like San Francisco, but it's small and it's mighty. I work with an incredible team, and we're building an amazing technology, utilizing the insights that I've accumulated over the last 12 years of my sales tech career and baking all of that knowledge and best practices into our product.
Awesome. Sell your company in 1 minute as well.
Feel AI is a way for companies to speak with their audiences frictionless. So today, most B2B organizations are asking for people to connect with SDRs or account executives and spend 30 minutes on a Zoom call with a stranger. That's really difficult to get done. And as more and more companies come out and more people are sending emails and cold calling and asking for the same thing, a 30-minute meeting, it's becoming a really real challenge for the businesses. So we've developed a way that you can easily speak with an agent. The agent can discover the audience member just as though an account executive or an SDR would, but that individual gets to interact anytime that they want to on any device within 5 minutes in any language. So it's really frictionless. There's no scheduling. Anybody can do it. Even gift cards can be equipped onto these conversations to add value to that individual coming to the table.
So for people that want to go on and start a tech company nowadays, people are looking to that. How it was to get the first 10 customers?
There's all different types of businesses. I'm in the B2B enterprise space. So getting your first 10 customers can be somewhat challenging, especially if you're a first-time tech entrepreneur. With that said, go for it. If you have the ambition to do it, I highly recommend it. It's the most fulfilling part of my career that I'm in right now. And I wish I did it 10 years earlier, quite honestly. My thinking at the time was I wanted to work my way up in an organization to an executive level. And at that point in time, I would have all the skills necessary to go build my own business. I think that that's wrong. Looking back, I think that I could have done this a long time ago. The mistakes that I'm making and learning from now, I didn't make and learn across a 12-year career, right? It took the actual ambition and initiative to go start something, and then you stumble and you find your way and you find individuals that want to come on the journey with you and help you, and you guys make mistakes together. But the point is, if you have an idea, if you have an insight, if you have the ability to start building and the drive to do that, go do it. Go try and talk to people ahead of building it to see if you can get some fans, some champions that align with what you're trying to solve for, so they can build it with you as you incubate this idea, as you incubate this young product into something that's going to be usable eventually.
You have a long history in sales right now. How important was networking for getting to where you're at right now?
Yeah, it's a great question. What I loved about sales, the only reason I chose sales as my first tech job, knowing that I wanted to be an entrepreneur at some point, sales gives you the most skills useful to be an entrepreneur, maybe outside of a computer science background, right? Being able to code yourself is absolutely a skill set, but what's even more of a skill set is being able to sell, being able to articulate value, being able to ask questions that illustrate somebody's pain points and aligning your solutions to those pain points. This is a difficult thing to do that takes practice, and it's not something that's taught in computer engineering or marketing or elsewhere. Sales is the best department, vehicle, and skill set to develop. The other great thing about it is sales works with everybody inside of the organization, right? You have to work with legal, you have to work with marketing, you work with customer success, you work with engineering and product. So you understand how those departments work and think and how you can help them and how they can help you. Being in that department, that hub and spoke sort of model of sales being in the middle, you leave with an incredible network, as you asked, but also just a wealth of knowledge of how all these departments work. That was not something that I knew going into it, but that's absolutely something that I got out of it. And that's why I recommend it today.
And we are looking a lot about people saying the studies to get into tech, being a tech founder or working in a tech company nowadays. What do you think about that?
So the university that I chose, I went to because it has an entrepreneurship program, which was something rare at the time. Now many schools have entrepreneurship programs, but even with that, I don't think that you need to go to college or university to be an entrepreneur. In fact, in many ways, it could be a hindrance. It could delay your success. by going to these institutions that may steer you in other directions, which is totally fine as well. When I was going to school, YouTube wasn't as populated as it is now, right? This was 12, 13 years ago. There was no GPT, there was no cursor, there were no abilities to have a coding assistant in your pocket, right? So real skills needed to be developed, real networks needed to be developed, but that's all changed. That is absolutely different. I have two young children. I don't think that I will be recommending, unless any major shifts happen, I don't think I'll be recommending that they're going to university when they come of age, right? I think we have all the tools in front of us and accessible and easily accessible, free even, to go find a problem in the world and solve it digitally if that's the type of business that you want to build. Or there's tons of trade businesses that won't be affected by AI in the next 10 years. And those are good skills to develop as well.
You mentioned in the beginning that already your model has capability in multiple languages. So your focus right now is growing a lot in USA first, or maximizing other countries?
Sure. Yeah, we're focused on marketing and selling to US headquartered companies. With that said, we've gotten some interest from global organizations, and we're starting pilots with them. Yes, it's very helpful that our model today speaks 40 languages, tomorrow could speak many more, allowing us to interact with any audience regardless of the first language that they want to choose to use. US is such a melting pot, so there's so many languages here that we need to support just to have brands be able to speak with their audiences locally. Is somewhat of an enterprise mid-market platform, and that requires some humans to be involved in the sales motion. What we do is incredibly novel. The idea of having agents talk to your prospects and customers has not been around a long time. So CMOs, who we largely sell to, chief marketing officers, that's new to them. That they don't have an analog inside of their tech stack today that does quite what Peel does. So we have to educate them. We have to get them onto a pilot so they can see impact and value, and then they can sign an annual contract and expand and get more value. I say all that to say it's not a product-led growth company. It's not a ClickUp or a Monday.com or some of these other really lightweight, inexpensive tools like Notion that can just be put up on a website and we can pay for ads and bring traffic. No, we have to go talk and educate our customers, and being US based and selling to US companies, that is the easier motion for a startup of our size. As we get bigger, of course, we would have offices or representation around the world.
So right now, you have maybe try a lot of strategies to get leads and everything, outbound, inbound. From your past experiences, what is you getting up to this new company?
Yeah, in sales, I've done so many different evolutions of different best practices and tactics. It does have to do with the person you're selling to and where they live. So our buyer is on LinkedIn. We're very fortunate that there's a professional social network where most of our buyers live, and we get to use strategies that can get in front of them there. Other companies don't have that benefit. They may not be active on LinkedIn. They may not even look at their email. They may not answer their phone. And you need to think of other ways to get in front of them. And that can be a challenge. I particularly think that today, the best technique, the best practice to be deploying is authenticity. And that's counter to what we've been doing for a long time, which is volume of outbound. I need to send 100 emails today. I need to make 100 cold calls and send 100, LinkedIn invitations. The return of those of that effort is really low results. What I think more and more people are craving is an authentic voice. So if you're able to do a video on LinkedIn or a podcast like this, and share your perspective, and it can get in front of your customers and you can tell the story of the problem that you're trying to solve, I think that's going to convert far better in 2025 than 1,000 cold emails will. So that's the topic that I'm focused on, and that's what I encourage everybody to do.
It's not only about numbers of outreach, but the quality of them. Looking at managing sales teams, how do you make your team has the best goals, be on track of them? Do you have any strategy or insights?
There's so much there, honestly, to answer that question.
Yeah, of course.
Where I would start, which I think is it's a no-brainer. It's quite obvious, but it's something that can't be overlooked. The product has to has to be good. The product at the end of the day that you are asking people to sell on your behalf, it has to be good and it has to solve the problem expeditiously, and it's got to be differentiated from competition. If you don't have those things, then you have to go put so much more stress and focus and rigor and dollars behind the motion. It is going to be an uphill battle that you fight all the time. But let's say that you have a product that works for your customers. The best thing that you can do is build realistic goals. I've always believed this and I've always said it. Marketing creates demand and sales converts demand. And it needs to work in that evolution. So you've got a product that works, encapsulate the customer's stories and testimonials of this product in market, solving really big problems. If marketing can demonstrate that, then you're creating inbound demand that should be convertible by the sales team, so long as they understand how to have a conversation where we're extracting the pain points, asking the open-ended questions, understanding the person's situation, pain, and the impact that they're trying to achieve. If you can teach your sales team to do those three things, you're setting yourself up for success. The next sort of big things that you can do is understand critical events that might be happening in that customer account and attach your solution to it so you can have an expectation of when a deal can get done. The last thing that a sales team, a really high functioning sales team, needs to do is understand how that customer, how they get a deal done inside. So it's the decision-making process. And typically that's done by a committee of people. So your ability to articulate to that committee how your product's going to solve major and important pain points of theirs and getting them all aligned on this strategy and getting it done on a date, you can see it can be very, very challenging. So what I just rattled through was something called the spiced formula. It's been brought to the world by Winning by Design, which is an amazing sales and go-to-market methodology. There's many of those. There's MedPick, there's BANT, which is more old school. There's gap selling, solution selling. There's these methodologies that are really helpful frameworks and blueprints for sales teams. Throughout my career, I've implemented those and we've integrated those into our tech stacks to make it as easy as possible to source the information, document it, and drive towards those impact points for our customers.
What I'm looking at the market, we see companies that when they're not having the best results ever, they try to see where it's the problem. So what do you see as a solution for these types of situations? Did it ever happen to you, or some case of marketing versus sales or product versus etc.? It's endless.
Product market fit is when your audience is learning about you and beating down your door to get your product. That happens very rarely. But when it happens, it's not always sticky. That it's a spectrum. So you could have product market fit, competition could come into the marketplace, existential things can change around you, policies can change. So you can lose product market fit and you need to readjust and create a new compelling story with new proof points and go do it all over again. So a lot of people think, how do I go get product market fit? Well, it's not a point in time thing and it's not always certain that will remain. So I think that's a flawed framework to think about it. It's always this evolution of refining your marketing materials, refining your product, refining your team to speak about these things. What you just are kind of asking a question about is actually the genesis of Peel. When I built Peel, initially it was to do win-loss analysis, which is exactly what you're asking about, which is, hey, every customer that we win, we should understand why we won them. What was it that led them to this decision? And every deal that we lose, we should also understand very truthfully and at a first principle viewpoint why they didn't move forward. And if we can collect that, maybe not 100% of the time, but even 10% of the time, we can create this body of data that tells us exactly what we need to do to improve department to department. The issue is companies have been trying to do this with their sales teams. That's ultimately the friction point where this stuff comes to light. But notoriously, sales teams, individuals, don't document their wins and losses very well. And then they also bias it. It's human nature to not blame yourself and blame others. So that's what happened at all the organizations that I've been a part of. I've tried to run win-loss programs at 2 or 3 of the organizations that I worked at. And I always did it off that flawed data set. And you're right, we point fingers, trust is lost. And all of a sudden a team is upset with each other, right? So it's great to bring in a third party to analyze this information for you. It achieves many goals. One, it's more trustworthy data. Two, the customer or the prospect will be a little bit more honest with that third party than they would be with you directly. So if you can do that and you can afford that, that's great. What we saw was generative AI was here, and generative AI could play that role of the third party interviewing your prospects and your closed won customers. And you could equip it with a gift card. It could be still done at a very, very low cost, but you could get this data set that could tell you what your marketing team is doing wrong, or your product team, or your sales team, whatever it may be. So that's one of the core use cases of Peel, is to be that third party and interview all of your prospects and customers.
When we're talking about technology and AI into new software products, people are just trying to figure out, which one is the best, or should I bring myself my own trained data, my own LLM? What are your thoughts about this?
One, like from a go-to-market application layer level, there's no experts in the world. This stuff is moving so fast. From a foundational model standpoint, sure, there are absolutely experts. People have been researching this for decades. There was a time 12 months ago where we thought, we will fine-tune our own model, and we'll host that model, and we'll utilize that for many of the motions that Peel does. That was flawed thinking. We didn't foresee many of the foundational model updates that were coming. For example, there's speech-to-speech now. There's this real-time ability to have a voice conversation with an LLM and for it to reply in voice with inflection and tone. Whereas most models predating that were text-based, and it would send you a message and you would have to translate that to voice, and you would do this back and forth, and there was latency involved. There was no intonation or tone or inflection involved in that communication pattern. So when we thought about hosting our own model and fine-tuning it, we're so thankful that we didn't, because now there's new technology that we can utilize to have better conversations between brands and audiences. So I would say to the folks that are thinking about it from building your application layer on top of LLMs, no, don't think because some set of circumstances are happening today that you should all of a sudden begin to develop your own model. Remain nimble and use various ones. They're going to be, and they already are, similar to like T-Mobile, AT&T, and other things. You go find the best price or the best level of service for what you're trying to achieve, and you can have that anonymity or fluctuation in different models that you use. If you are a business and you are trying to figure out how to solve a business problem in-house, there could be arguments there to certainly have your own model and train it on your own data set. But still, I would say that there's going to be evolutions in that technology that you're not going to be able to take advantage of because you brought something sort of on premise. That when I was coming up, my first sales gig, what we sold against was on-premise software versus cloud software. And I think we're going to go through another sort of evolution of this with LLMs, where people will take an LLM and sort of bring it in-house on their own servers and host it themselves, and they'll be stuck, and they may get a year out of that. But they need to go to a cloud application or update that and maintain it. So I think there's some lessons to be learned from that period of time where we thought about on-premise software versus cloud. And obviously cloud was the overall winner. And I would say that you should think of it within those same confines.
What is the being of the person to attract them to be hired, and one to get fired?
Without naming any names, let me think back to some of the people that I've hired. What I look for when I'm hiring is ambition and effort. If you have those two things, then you can be taught whatever needs to be taught, right? But I can't teach effort, nor can really anybody that I know of. That's the ticket, for admission is effort and attitude and ambition. Do you want to be an expert in something? Are you curious? Those are really important factors. To get fired, I have a no asshole policy. I know a lot of companies do. Like, you can be as good as you want to be at your job. You can perform amazing numbers, but if you're mean to your customers or to your teammates, it's a toxic sort of attitude. So that's an easy way to get kicked out of the organization. And then it goes back to effort. Like, again, there's been many folks that have been slow to ramp that I've worked with, and we use this term ramp. to sort of say, get up to speed or get up to expertise on a product set, on how you talk about it, how you demo it, and their numbers as a result, because most salespeople carry a quota and you're measured against that on a monthly or quarterly basis. Some of these people were not hitting their goals, and ultimately they had to be put on a PIP, as an acronym for Performance Enhancement Plan, which is, by this date, I expect you to be here so we can save your job. Many people that I have had to, put on PIPs and work with them, because they had effort and curiosity and aptitude, they got there and they made it. Others that didn't have effort, it was quick to see, okay, we're not going to get there. Let's part ways as friends.
How nowadays do you think that the sales market is evolving? It's evolving to be more AI-led too, or do you think it will always depend on a human to human to do the digital sign and to close the deal and everything?
It's an excellent question. And it's one that I have a perspective on, that I'm obviously placing a bet on with Peel and the work that we're doing right now, but nothing is certain and everything can change. What I think will happen and is happening, and let's first put a couple things to aside. There are products out there that cost millions to hundreds of millions of dollars a year, right? Those types of products will always require two humans to be in communication, because they're just so expensive that the relationship is so important to carry that sales cycle and customer all the way through. Then at the very other end of the spectrum, there are PLG products, product-led growth products, and typically those have a free trial and they try and grow you within that free trial into a customer. And it's typically a very low price point. And they can do that through tours and hints and guides and videos within their product. And they don't need two humans to sort of be in a room to get that conversion done. Then there's everything in between, and everything in between is a massive market of different companies and different products. That's where I think the most change, the most disruption with AI will occur. We believe, we have a perspective that for that middle, 80% of conversations between brands and prospects and customers will be AI-led first. And only the 20% will escalate to human. So with that, if we believe that to be true, that changes a ton of stuff. What we're doing with Peel is essentially automating or giving the prospect another alternative to have a discovery session, to get a demo of the product, and to have a collaborative back and forth about how their situation applies to that product. And that used to be 1 to 3 calls with my sales team, right? And that was at least 30 minutes per call, and getting somebody to do those 3 calls probably took 3 weeks of scheduling, 1 call 1 week, 1 call the next week. So we're able to compress that cycle time down to, you're a web visitor, you see this button that says AI demo powered by Peel or other competitors of ours. They click into that, Peel asks them 5 questions about their situation, and then it presents that product within the confines of their situation. And it's one-to-one marketing at scale, again, in 40 different languages on any device. So it dramatically changes the way that we've been doing things. It reduces the costs for the business. Now sales departments aren't this massive overhead anymore, and they can invest more money into products and marketing. And it's also a benefit to the consumer. Now the consumer can go look at far more tools, can go have more AI-led conversations with different tools, and have a better buying perspective in a shorter window of time without having to waste another human's time to figure out if this product is good for them. So it's going to disrupt so much. That's the future that we're building for right now. And I think a lot of the legacy technology and tactics that we have used are going to be thrown in the garbage can, and we're going to need to adopt new ones.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now that you have for almost 2 years, your new company or more?
No less. We kind of had an MVP maybe about a year ago, and just in the last 3 to 4 months, we've got a new product. We did a little rebrand to Peel from a previous name. So I would say, to be fair to us, probably we've been in market for the last 4 months.
Oh, that's nice. And to hire these first people in the company is whoever comes first, who has the fits let's go, or you try to be more precise?
Good question. No, you have to be incredibly precise about the people that you bring on at this stage is what I'm learning. So I don't want to, act like I'm a serial entrepreneur, that this is my fourth time around. It's not. It's my first time. I was an executive, a VP of sales at previous organizations, and certainly hired and fired there, but we had built out teams. Now it's the foundational team. It's the founding team that you are hiring for and selecting for, and it's really difficult. So what I recommend, what I did with my CTO is we started on a project capacity, very playfully trying to build out these tools that we had a vision for. And as that worked out, we made it more official and greater responsibilities and more equity and more everything. So I would take that approach if at all possible. I interviewed probably over 70 CTOs to find my CTO, Pavel, who's exceptional. Similarly with my co-founder, I worked with several different people in project capacities and ultimately found Ben, my co-founder, and made it official after we had worked together for a couple months. All the developers that we have and all the additional resources that we have come from friends of friends or friends of our investors. So they've been vetted through our network, and there's trust earned with that. But even then, we start with a contractor sort of project basis to make sure that their effort, to go back to the earlier lesson, that the effort and aptitude is there. We can teach them about what we're trying to accomplish at Peel, but we've got to have that, in that founding team.
Also, just for people who have like an idea of routine and everything, do you have it so every day is the same, or right now with the company there's almost no routine, you have to go and do stuff that shows up in the calendar?
Everybody's a little bit different. For me, routine is a good thing. Having some consistency in the week and in the calendar is a good thing. And I think I've always done that with my sales teams. But look, I have a product founder with me that is more creative and less calendared, and he works odd hours, and I have to be nimble and work with him when he's ready to work. And there's things like that you have to keep in mind. But no, for us, we like to keep a calendared approach. With that said, we're meeting on a Saturday morning, which isn't incredibly typical for me, but I'm very honored and happy to have these types of conversations, and we'll take them when I can get them, and whenever that time is, I'll do it. Largely, I have a family, so I love to go work early and come home a little bit early and prepare them dinner every night. And then I open up my calendar past 7 p.m. because maybe there's a customer in a different time zone that wants to meet then, or that's when I can meet with my developer and talk about the bugs that we encountered throughout the day. So look, man, it's be as constructive and calendared as you possibly can. But if you want to be successful in entrepreneurship, especially in technology, you have to be available when people need you.
So I have a lot of people that know me is Brazilian, and they are on tech industries in Brazil. People are looking to have like another branch in the US. What do you think about it? Do you think they are open to companies, for example, from Brazil or other countries to join and try to have a market as well?
I think it's a spectrum. So if you're asking, there's entrepreneurs in Brazil that are creating digital products. Are they going to be adopted and purchased by US-based companies, or is there going to be sort of more scrutiny or a selection process that would remove them from being a viable candidate? I think it goes back to what I mentioned before, which is there's PLG companies and then there's enterprise SLG companies, right? The more that you are an enterprise company, the more that you need to show that you are a by the book business. So we have our SOC compliancy as an example. SOC compliancy really demonstrates to our customers the level of scrutiny that we put under their data, in how we warehouse that data and how we secure that data. That's very important when you are beyond the PLG size company. If you are a small widget that maybe tracks time for hourly workers, and it's a very low cost product, I think the purchaser of that product cares less about where the headquarters of that organization are. Yeah, I would say it depends on who you're selling to and do they really care about those things.
In Brazil, we see a lot of companies trying to reduce costs. So they have a subscription in dollars, they try to move to a Brazilian. And in US, maybe the scenario is different. Maybe they prefer higher prices or better products, or what do you see as the market, for example?
I think that's an individual decision by the business and the buyer. I think on scale, they're looking for lower cost and not necessarily lower cost, but more aligned to the value that they get out of the product. So if a product does something massive for them, they don't mind spending a lot of money with that product, but it has to drive that impact that is demonstratable. Whereas before, in the last 20 years, where software as a service has come to be a term that everybody understands, there was fixed pricing. Chief financial officers like fixed pricing because they have consistency in their cost, and that's a good thing for a business to understand. Now, as we get into this more AI era of technology, and a lot of people are latching onto the term agents as a replacement for software as a service, we think of agents more as an employee. And employees, although we may pay a consistent salary to, we expect output and outcomes from them. And when we don't see those things, we fire, right? So very similar with software, we are expecting, or agents, we are expecting output and value to come from that. And we want to pay as that value adjusts. If it goes down 1 month, we want to pay less. If it goes up 1 month, we're okay to pay more because you provided value. So I think that's a big change that's happening via AI as well, is this idea of usage-based or value-based pricing. And that's why you're seeing a lot of companies that have always sold on seat-based pricing, which was like $29 for your seat, $29 for my seat. Well, nobody likes that anymore because you may have been on vacation all month and you didn't get to use that tool, but the price didn't change. So these are consumer behaviors that I think are changing as a result of AI.
That's awesome. And to last question, if you could come back on time and give your 20-year self an advice, what would that be?
So many people get asked this question, and some of the advice that they give, which I think is a little bit flawed, is I wish I could take this advice, like stress less. Things are going to work out. I think that stress, that anxiety of uncertainty is what drives you to make things work out. So I would say, like, that's not the advice that I would give. The advice that I would give is bet on yourself. Like, if you have proven throughout your life so far that you are intelligent, capable, and you have gotten projects done, bet on yourself. Again, I wish I started a company 9 years ago, like right after my first sales career. I had opportunities and insights to build products that I thought would resonate. And now I see those companies being billion-dollar companies, these ideas that I had back then. Ideas is never enough. You need to go execute, but you get better at execution when you try. I believe, no, there's probably some more skills that I need to develop in the meantime. And that's true on the margins. But I wish the advice that I gave myself was bet on yourself coming out of college, or bet on yourself coming out of your first tech job. Go start to build your own business. If that's what you want, go do that early in life so you can develop those muscles. You can learn from your mistakes and you can get better. And maybe you can start 2 or 3 companies within your lifetime. That's what I wish I did.